Hey everybody, Anna Krueger here with the MAPS ISA coaching program, where we really focus on lead gen, lead conversion. It's called ISA coaching program, and really it's all about finding new people to talk to, adding them to the database, how to convert leads. And so today we're primarily going to talk about how to set appointments that actually show up. Imagine that. And not just ones that actually show up. Yet, have you ever had that appointment where they showed up and then you quickly realized this person is not actually able to do anything right now, and it's a waste of their time, it's a waste of your time? We're going to talk about how to avoid that as well. So with me is Katie. She's one of our MAPS coaches as well. So Katie, tell everyone where you're from, a little bit of your production background so they have some context. While she's doing this, I want you guys to type into the chat box and tell us what you want to get from today's webinar. So we both will pivot really to what your questions are. And the topic is surrounding setting appointments that actually show up and are quality. So go ahead and type in, and then Katie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Collins. I'm a licensed agent here in Austin, Texas. I work for the Heil Group, Tim Heil. I joined real estate in 2013 as the listing specialist for the team. So I'm very excited about this topic, specifically to talk to you guys about how to keep that appointment on the calendar, and more so to discuss the handoff between the ISA to the agent to really make sure that you're going to get the best set to kept ratio that you can get for today. So, yeah.
And I'm curious, and feel free to type in, you guys, how many of you are agents? And everybody just type in and say agent no ISA or agent with ISA, because that will help us have context. There's about 700 people signed up for this webinar. And so, if only 10% of you have ISAs and the rest of you don't, that'll also kind of pivot how we approach this today. So go ahead and type in and let us know if you have an ISA or not. But really the whole goal here is to help you guys meet with people that make sense and also have great rapport with the people you meet with. So there's a way that you can conduct the conversation that's very relational, very relationship-based, builds a lot of rapport. And then there's a way to approach it that's very sales transactional. So we want to help everybody swing to that relationship-based approach. And so what we're going to do the first half is we're going to talk a lot about like the systems. What are some practical things that you need to know to set an appointment? What's the right window of time? Things like that. And then the second half of the webinar is the thing I'm most excited about. We're going to get into how do you ask quality questions and how do you actually dig deeper with clients. We hear a lot, dig deeper, ask at least 3 open-ended questions, yet how do we really do that well so it's not confusing? So that's going to be the second half of today. So Katie, why don't you start us off? Katie sold 144 homes her first year, so she's pretty skilled at this whole thing. So why don't you share with us what were some systems that you had around setting appointments that they stuck, were quality, and actually signed with you?
Okay, so the first system that we implemented with our ISA to agent team is we had the ISA talking up the agent while they were on the phone setting the appointment. So Katie is fantastic. I'm sure she's going to be super excited to meet with you, and we'll be able to help you with this challenge, that kind of stuff right there. So it makes that transition from this relationship to that relationship that much easier and seamless. The next piece that we incorporated into the system is as soon as my ISA set the appointment, they sent a calendar invite to the client and to myself. Now, this is something you should be doing if you're an individual agent, in my opinion. You don't even need to have an ISA to utilize this specific system. Yeah. The invitation, the calendar invite went to the client, and it said listing consultation. So there's no question what this meeting is about. Listing consultation. Then it said the client's name and my name. In the notes section, it has the client's name and phone number and my name and phone number. So we just created a way for the client to reach out to me directly very easily, and a way for me to reach out to the client very easily. Furthermore, we made it so that the client would accept the invite, and that would give me a clearer sense of how solid this appointment was. Meaning I knew that they were logged in, put it on their calendar. It creates an extra stickiness factor to that appointment set and kept ratio. If they didn't accept the invite, I knew that I might need to hustle a bit more in my follow-up to confirm the appointment. So Also, the other great thing that this does for anybody out there that uses Google Maps is it allows me to just click on the address for the directions to get there. So it just made my day that much easier in navigating where I was going.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say about this system too is that if you're going to use this as an ISA, you need to make sure that your agent keeps their calendar updated. For me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm an agent and I keep it updated, it means I'm going to get appointments put on it. If I don't, it means I'm not going to get appointments put on it. So that was our motivating factor at the Heil Group, to make sure we kept our calendar updated.
Yeah.
And then once this appointment's set, right, I'm being notified because I have a calendar invite pops up in my email. I am calling that client. My goal is to get into relationship with them as soon as possible, so that there's no value drift or some time apart to let that seller's sense of urgency die down. So I want to call them the same day that the appointment was set, introduce myself. This is where I take the opportunity to dig in deeper on the qualifying questions that the ISA are already asked, to make sure that this is a worthwhile appointment for me to go on. So this is why I tell people all the time, agents don't have the right to be upset with their ISA for not setting great appointments, because this is the opportunity they can take to further qualify that lead. Then I also, depending on the timeout, say that the appointment's set for tomorrow. I call it today and confirm it today. I won't call them again in the morning. It's 24-hour appointment. I'm good to go. But let's also say that they set the appointment, but it's set for Friday. I'll call them today, and I'm calling them again Thursday evening or Friday morning to reconfirm and make sure that it's on the calendar. So those are just a few of the systems we use there to really pull the lead in. Now, some other things that I know some other teams do that have been really, really successful is putting the ISA will put the agent and the client in a group text as soon as they set it.
Okay.
Hey, Michelle, can't wait for you to meet Anna. She's going to be there at 2 p.m. on Thursday. I wanted to give you her contact information. Here she is. It really creates a higher sense of urgency for the agent to respond immediately back to the client, or as soon as they're first available to do so. Yeah. And it's just an easy transfer method for the agent to see that lead has come through into their system if they didn't check their CRM that afternoon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And guys, type in the box, because it makes sense to me, and this webinar is for you guys. And so let us know if there's a piece missing you want us to go back over. I heard you say a couple key things though. And one is the ISA really built up the agent. And so that's one thing I'd like to say for those of you, we had a lot of people type in and say, I'm an ISA, or we're a team of ISAs, or I have an ISA. And it's really, really important to know each individual agent on your team so you can really build them up when you're setting it. Because I look at it from the ISA perspective, because that was my role. Katie was the agent. I looked at it like, I want to make this a slam dunk. I want to make it that the clients love Katie before she even gets to the house. So that way it's really easy for her to get the signature. So seek out from your agents, tell me about a win you had this week so you can write it down and reference it on a call. Maybe it's they won a multiple offer last week. Talk about that with your clients. Maybe, Katie, I know that there's repair negotiations. So if an agent just saved a client $7,000 in repair negotiations, well, let's talk about that on our lead gen calls, right? You're going to love working with Katie. She actually just this week saved someone $7,000 on a repair request. I mean, she's going to take excellent care of you. So saying things like that is going to help make it easier for Katie then to get the signature, and also help that show ratio stick. So I just wanted to highlight that because you said it so eloquently and people may have just missed it. Because in our world, like, that's what we've seen work well, and not everyone's doing that, right? Make sure you know those quality details of the person you're setting the appointment for. Now, if you're setting for yourself, because a lot of people said I'm an agent with no ISA, be bold in sharing what you bring to the table, right? I like to use the analogy of if you're a doctor and you see someone having a heart attack, you need to be bold, like it's a good thing. You're serving the world well when you go up and say, hey, I'm a doctor. Here's what I bring to the table. Let me help you. I think you're having a heart attack. And so what I encourage you is don't hold back with what you have to bring to the table, even if you're setting for yourself. You can say, hey, I won a multiple offer against 3 people last week. I'd love to help you get into the house that you really want. So that's some ideas for you of ways that you can really build up quality before the appointment actually happens.
Yeah, and just to kind of elaborate a little bit further on that ISA to agent relationship piece, communicate. Communicate with your agent communicate with your ISA. I can't tell you how many times my ISA would set an appointment and run over to me and say, "Hey, this one's a little wishy-washy. Not 100% certain on this one," right? And that just tipped me off to know I need to be really diligent about following up with that person and confirming before the appointment. But at the same time, I also knew I had the ability to say, "Hey, I haven't gotten this person back on the phone. I'm going to transfer him back to you. Will you help me try to get him back on to confirm?" So there needs to be a high level of communication between the agent and ISA as well when you're working that model.
Yeah, 100%. And to that point too, it's really important, and there's all different models out there. I firmly believe, and Katie, I think you're on the same page from us talking. I firmly believe in getting some pre-qualification information from the lead, meaning it's not just, are they motivated? If they're a seller, it's what do they owe on their house? What do they think their house is worth? What's the condition of their house, scale 0 to 10? What does that look like? Are they a 5 or are they a 10? And what makes them a 5 if they're a 5? So because I look at it like I want to position Katie, or if you're setting for yourself, position yourself that when you walk into that appointment, you've already been able to run some comps beforehand. You have a good idea of what you're walking into, because that also can give you an idea of what objections you're going to handle. So that would be the other piece is making sure you have a standard of what must I know before I go in this appointment so that I can prepare. One great way to get into that conversation with clients is to say, "Hey, Katie, recap motivation. I understand you want to move out west to be closer to family. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. I have some questions for you about your house. Are you ready to play 20 questions with me?" And they usually laugh, and that gives some context. And then you run through the questions. And you can just let them know the point of this is it will save you time once you do meet with Katie, because we want to streamline that for you. So I have some questions for you now that will make your appointment with her later shorter and more to the point, because she can.
Right.
And then they're usually good with it.
And then for all you ISAs and agents, if you're an individual agent, you're calling, you're prospecting yourself, listen. I can't stress this enough. I think so many of us listen to prospects, and the whole time that prospect is talking, we are thinking of, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next, right? And we need to listen more to understand. It's going to benefit you greatly if you have a pre-qual questionnaire typed up, written out right at your station where you're making your calls. So that way you don't suffer from a problem I've suffered from, which is where I get happy ears and I'm super excited there's somebody wanting to talk to me, that I just fall over myself and say, "Okay, yeah, this is great. When should we meet? Friday at 2, let's go," right? And I miss some key pieces that way. So slow down, listen, and go through those 20 questions. I think it's really like 17, but
yeah,
close
there's
enough,
a lot of questions.
Yeah. So just pace yourself and know that you should be asking a lot of questions. They should be doing about 80% of the talking. You're doing 20%. And of that 20%, it's mainly questions.
Yeah. And in just a few minutes, we'll transition to what are some of those questions and what do they sound like. One thing I want to do real quick is share screen, because we have some questions coming in that are great questions, actually. I don't know that we'll have time to get to them because they're not about setting appointments and show ratio. So let me show you a resource real quick. Can you guys see the ISA mapscoaching.com website? Can you see that, Katie?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what you want to do is go to isamapscoaching.com, and it'll bring you to this page here, and just click on the webinars tab. Now we have a coaching program. If you want to know about the coaching program, you can click on it right here. It says ISA program. And just FYI, it says ISA program. It's really lead gen, lead conversion. That's really what we talk about constantly. So we have a lot of people in there that don't have ISAs. They're agents. Katie's one of our coaches. She was an agent. Annalise is one of our coaches. She was an agent. So it's really a lead gen, lead conversion program. But for free, you can go to the webinars tab, and we have all kinds of stuff here. So we had some questions of how do you call your database that's older? I don't know that we'll get to that today, but there's a lot of these topics are here under the webinars tab. So for example, even this webinar will be here in the next couple of days. So for example, how do you grow your database? Here's something right here that could help with that question. How do you handle objections? Okay, so here's one for that. How to take back control of your calendar. This is actually a really good one that would be a good follow-up to today's webinar on setting appointments, because this is Annalisa talking about how she fit people into her calendar in a way that worked for her instead of the client kind of running over her calendar. So anyway, just know there's a lot of resources for you there, isamapscoaching.com. You can find out about the program if you want more consistent, regular coaching. And then every once in a while, we'll do a free webinar, and it's there on the page.
Yep.
Okay. Katie, someone asked, going back to the whole calendar invite thing, if you put the address in the body of that.
I typed back and said it's in the location line.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah. Do we want to talk about some inbound leads?
Yeah, and then Bo actually also has a good question. How do you talk about yourself if you don't have an ISA? And Katie, you'd probably be great at handling that because you are an agent. I'm the ISA. So how would you talk about yourself in a way that would build the value without sounding arrogant or, hey, here's how awesome I am?
Oh, well, the key is to still make it about the prospect. Like, I am so excited to be able to help you. I've been able to help some other families in a similar situation, and I would love nothing more than to get you that dream home or to get you that listing sold in record time, whatever it is. And I'll even say my track record is in alignment with your goals. So I'm super excited to meet with you. There's different ways of like, what's the saying? Modesty brag or something. There's a saying on the internet. I feel like gosh, I feel really old right now, but there's humble brag, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Like humble brag. You know, it's just, anyways, there are different tactics you can use to do that. Like, I think my track record's in alignment with what your goals are. But the more you make it about that person and the more genuinely enthusiastic you sound about helping them, the more excited they're going to be to actually meet with you. And it's really that simple. It's just being genuine with them about wanting to work with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you can even say, you could share a piece of your track record. And then a great follow-up to that is, the only reason I'm sharing this with you is I want to help you feel comfortable knowing we can take good care of you, or I can take good care of you. Another good thing you could do, and this would depend on if you've been gathering reviews, but you could also say, you know, Katie, I know that I will take good care of you because that's who I am. And I also can understand it might help you to hear from past clients. If you want to go to Google right now and Google, you know, your name or however they would find you, there's a whole bunch of Google reviews on there. I encourage you to read those before we meet.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see what other people have to say and all that stuff.
I mean, knowing your statistics help. If you know that all of your listings sell for 99% of list price, you can say, well, Tom, I understand you're wanting to get the highest that you can get for your home. My track record has been that 99% of the listings I sell are getting list price, or 99% of it, whatever the number is. Is that what you're looking for? Or that's what you're looking for, isn't it? Tie it down. Tie it down. You've just given them a statistic about yourself. Tie it down. Yes, that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the highest and best sales price for my property. Great. That it sounds like we should meet.
Yeah.
Which days work best for you? Alternative, let's close that all day.
Yeah. Perfect. So then you had talked, Katie, about, could we talk about buyers for a minute? So we're talking a lot about listings here, yet a lot of the principles apply to both. So let's talk about buyers for a second. So if we're setting a buyer appointment, it can be very common for them to say, well, why can't you just meet me at the house first? Or why do we need to meet first and have a meeting? So let's talk through that for a minute and address buyers.
Yeah. So buyers are a little bit different in that a lot of times their timeline isn't as firm as what the seller is. So again, we're still operating from the same principles of asking a lot of questions around what their specific goals are. So if I have a buyer that's calling in, let's say off a sign call, hi, I'm really interested in seeing 1234 Main Street. It's your listing there, right? What our first tactic is going to be to pretend we don't know the house to a certain extent. And what we say is, oh yeah, that's a great property. I know it's been getting a lot of traction. It's been getting a lot of calls. Let me look into it for you. And we sort of pretend to look it up. The reality is we know it's listed for $325. It's pending, or it has no offers yet. It's been on 6 hours, whatever the statistics are. We already know that. And I think this is where a lot of agents kind of misstep this piece. They think that the more quickly I can supply this potential buyer with that information, the greater they're going to think of me, that I'm on top of my game, and that they're going to want to work with me. And the reality is I'm trying to look for an opportunity to have a conversation with this person. And if I just give them the information outright, then they're just going to say thanks and hang up, or, shut me out a bit. So I say, give me a minute while I look that up. While I've got you on the phone, I'm curious. What are you looking for in your next home?
Yeah.
Great. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
So I'm wanting to dig and peel back some layers here and find out what they're looking for, what their timeline is, what their motivation is. With that information, I'm now armed to pivot the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I pulled up the information. The house is listed at $329. I know it's a little bit above your budget. The good news is there's some other properties that I think might actually work for you in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
When would be a good time for us, right? Or what was I saying? Oh yeah, there's some other houses in the neighborhood that I think would be a good fit for you. What days work best? When should we get together? Or my favorite close personally with buyers is, it sounds like you're looking, you just started. Sounds like you could maybe benefit from some more information, some inventory, just in education, right? Just information. That's all they're really asking for if you think about it. So it's not anything to be afraid of, right? So it sounds like you're interested. Why don't we do this? Why don't we set a time for us to get together? That way I can give you more information, the inventory, the process of home ownership, of going through the loan. And at the end of that, if you decide you don't want to move forward and buy a house, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's a non-committal appointment, right? It's the perfect, in my opinion, the better appointments that are the really good close for those high S's that you talk to on the disc profile. That
like the steady, I don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I just called on this house because I'm curious. I'm not really ready to start looking yet. I don't want to waste your time. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
I don't want to waste your time. I just got a call today from a past client. Katie, I don't want to waste your time, but I'm kind of interested in this neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're interested. Sounds like you benefit from some more information. Why don't we do this? Why don't we set a time for us to get together?
Yeah.
That way I can give you some more insight. Which days work best for you, weekdays or weekends?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's partially, someone asked the question of how do you set up what's going to happen in the appointment? And so in this vein, there's 3 things you can tell them will happen in the appointment that can help set a great expectation. So I'll give it to you right now. It would sound something like, okay, Katie, really our next step is to meet together so I can give you the information. And what we'll do is we'll go back over your motivation and price range. Make sure we're on the same page with that. So number 1, go back over motivation and price. Number 2, we'll just interview each other. So you can ask me questions. I'll ask you questions. We'll determine if we're a good fit to work together. And then the 3rd thing we'll do, if everything sounds good, we'll sign some paperwork to activate the next step and help you buy this house. That's at the very end of a conversation, assuming you know their motivation, you've pre-qualified them. And in just a minute, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to get into how do you ask good motivation questions to build a relationship. But that's what it would sound like. Go back over motivation and price, interview each other. If everything sounds good, we'll activate the next step and get things moving.
Yeah. So I think here too with buyers, one thing I see a lot when I talk to not only ISAs but agents that are setting their own appointments is, should I go on it if they're not already pre-qualified?
Yeah.
That's a big question I get. That, in my opinion, is more of a personal choice or team-to-team decision that you make collectively as a whole. I've had a number of agents on my team, myself included, meet with people that aren't pre-qualified, but through the conversation with the buyer consultation, we educate them and they understand more so the importance behind it and get it done and buy, and we've secured them as a client. But yet I also have had times where we've met with people that aren't pre-qualified, and then the next step, we learn they can't get pre-qualified. They don't have a high enough credit score, or there's some other issue there.
Yeah.
But what I will say about those is it's still not completely lost because we put them in our database, we get them with a credit repair team, and we help them work back towards getting into a financial position where they can purchase a home. It's going to vary from person to person, and there is no right or wrong way to do it, essentially.
Yeah. I think what I would encourage everybody to do is think through what's your personal standard. So I know many times it's recommended that if you're brand new in the business within the first couple months, just meet with as many people as you can, because it builds your confidence. It starts to help you recognize. You start to kind of pick up that sixth sense of who's serious, who's not, because of the volume of people you're meeting with. Now, if you're an agent and you've been doing this a couple months, a couple years, and your schedule's full, and you literally are like, I don't know where to fit people because I've got so much happening, then you're going to get a lot more stringent with who you agree to meet with. So my personal standard was we at least agreed that they would talk to a lender before agreeing to meet. And that came after about 3 months of being in the business, because I wanted to know, are they even willing to talk to a lender? Because if they're not willing to talk to a lender and they're a buyer, it's either a lack of motivation or a lack of education of why they need to talk to a lender. So if I'm on the phone with them and they're like, I just don't know that I'm willing to do that, I just want to go see the house, I'm going to want to stop right there and find out, is this maybe a lack of education as to maybe they don't understand why they need to talk to a lender and what that means? Or is it a lack of motivation and they're just wanting to go see this house because they like real estate and they watch HGTV all the time, right? And so that's really where the questions come in, which we'll get into in just a second. Katie has to hop off for some coaching calls, and then I'll carry on with the questions.
Yeah. So sorry I couldn't last longer on the call today, but you're in great hands with Anna. So thank you guys. And like Anna said earlier, go over to the website if you have specific questions about your business. I saw a for sale by owner question in there I'm dying to answer. If you want to reach out to us through the website, I'd be happy to help you guys any way I can, and look forward to working with all y'all again in the future.
Yeah, I love how you said all y'all. Yes, Southern.
Here I am. All right, bye.
Bye. Okay. So again, I think Hannah has up on the screen, because again, we're not able to get to all the questions because of time. So isamapscoaching.com, you can click the talk to a coach button and you'll get one of us. You don't get some like La La Land out there, some other person. You get Katie, Annalisa, me, possibly Alana or Rebecca, someone that actually works with the coaching program. Or check out the webinars tab, and we have all kinds of topics in there that you can work with. And Hannah, I can't tell if that slides up on the screen. If it's not, if you could throw it up real quick, it's got the website and everything in there that talks about the program. Okay, so let's transition. And now we're going to talk about how do you create a relationship-based sales process with people through asking quality questions. And I love your question, Maureen. You asked, how do you manage people getting offended when you start digging? So we're going to address that right now. So what I'm going to do is provide you guys with some of my favorite open-ended questions, and we're going to talk through how do you dig deeper with people in a way that builds rapport and not offending them. And really the biggest part of this is making it about the client, kind of like what Katie talked about a few minutes ago. So there's a difference between an open question and a digging question. So let's get into that. I want all of you to imagine right now that we are standing in the front yard of your house, okay? I'm actually looking out at my front yard right now. And I want us to imagine that we have asked a landscaper to plant a tree right beside the mailbox, okay? And I promise I'm gonna tie this back to question asking in just a minute. So we've hired a landscaper. I want you to plant a tree beside the mailbox. And he tells me that he thinks it will take 8 scoops of dirt and probably 20 minutes to stick that tree in the hole that took 8 scoops of dirt. And we agree on a price. And then I go back in the house and he's outside working on digging. Well, if I walk out, or if you walk out in about 20 minutes and we realize, okay, he has done 8 scoops of dirt, but he did 8 scoops of dirt in 8 different spots. So he did 1 scoop here, 1 scoop there, 1 scoop here. He didn't stay in one spot. He actually created some chaos. He's created a mess to clean up. He really actually did not get anything done. And if he came to us and said, hey, I still want my money I did what you asked. I did 8 scoops of dirt. What's your problem, lady? Why don't you want to give that to me? We would obviously say to him, you did the activity, you just didn't execute it in a way that was effective, right? So yeah, you did 8 scoops of dirt, but because you were jumping all over the front yard, you actually didn't get anything done that was effective. And where I'm going with this is I learned through listening to my own calls that I was asking a lot of questions on my calls, but I was jumping topics so much that I was actually creating confusion and not being effective. So today we're going to talk about 2 types of questions to dig in with your clients in a way that's effective and not confusing, so that you're not jumping topics, you're actually staying in one spot. So hopefully that analogy made sense. Type in the box if that made sense to you, or if I need to re-explain that picture in my head there. So there's 2 types of questions. Number 1, we have open beginning. And I encourage all of you to write this down. My goal in the next few minutes is to give you basically a cheat sheet of questions that when we're done the webinar, you can hang it up in your workspace and literally just read off of it when you're talking to clients, okay? So we have open beginning questions, and I look at that kind of like the groundbreaking questions. So the first dig, right? We haven't had conversation yet with this person. I don't really have much context. I don't know much about the client, and so I have to start somewhere. So I'm going to ask an open beginning question. My personal favorite one is, you know, Brian, moving is so much hard work. Tell me what put that on your radar today. The reason I like it is it's pointing out this is not something easy to do. And because I'm pointing out it's not easy to do, it then often pulls out deeper motivation quicker, because we're identifying right from the beginning, this is a lot of work. So what makes you want to do it? So that's one of my personal favorites. I would love for you to type into the chat box, because we have a lot of great people on this call. What is your personal favorite question about motivation that you like to use to start conversations with clients? And we'll read some of those out. Another good open beginning question could be, you know, there's a lot of things you could have been doing today. What prompted you to be on our website looking at houses? So that's gearing it towards the motivation. It's not about a certain house. It's not about a logistic. It's more what motivated you to even be looking at houses today. And I think that's a great one for those internet leads, those buyer leads. Kind of pivot to what's going on in culture. So for example, around Thanksgiving, a great one would be, you know, you could have been shopping Black Friday deals. What had you looking at a real estate website today? And it can make them laugh, and it opens up the conversation. Good. So Casey wrote in and said, what has you thinking about moving? Super simple. Write that one down. It's great. I see one in here. What about calling expireds or cancels? So a good question for that would be, what prompted you to want to move 6 months ago? So make it more about what was your motivation previously versus what's the motivation today. Because we know calling expireds, calling cancels, many times they'll say, I changed my mind, or I'm not interested anymore. Really, that's usually, they are interested, they're just discouraged today. I mean, if you think about it, if they just expired off the market yesterday, if they had had a good offer, they would have taken it and moved. So if they're telling you, I just changed my mind, or I'm not interested anymore, usually what they're really feeling is, I'm discouraged today, and so I just put it on the back burner. So ask the question more towards, what was motivating you 6 months ago? What was motivating you when you originally listed your house? And that will usually get you more traction. Rick says, and this is another good one, what made you begin thinking about making a move in the first place? Perfect. Okay, so now those are some openers. And the idea is it's starting the conversation. The next type of question we want to talk about is digging. And in a minute, I'm actually going to demonstrate this on my whiteboard. So let me know if you guys can see this. I'm not sure how big I am on the screen. So let me know if you can see the whiteboard, because in a minute, I want to make sure you can see it. So the next type of question is called a digging question. So let me give you some of these, write them down. And this would be question 2, 3, 4, 5, however far you want to go with it, after your initial question. It would sound something like, tell me more about blank, okay? The reason we call it a digging question is you are going to use a word or a phrase that they just gave you, and you're going to turn it into your question. So for example, if they say, I want to downsize, you are going to say something like, great, tell me more about downsizing, because downsizing is the word that they just used. Part of the reason you're doing this, in fact, just type in to the box, because a lot of you know this. Why are we using their exact wording in our next question? It does something psychologically for the client. So what is the point? Why not just paraphrase it? Why are we actually using their exact words in the next question? Yeah, and a big part of it is it builds rapport, right? So when we are physically in the presence of someone, if we are mirroring and matching their body language, so if they're sitting kind of like this and we sit kind of like this, it sends a subconscious message of we're in rapport with each other. We probably like each other. We're getting along. Well, on the phone, we don't see each other, right? And so the way that you mirror and match is to use their exact phrasing. So making sure that you're using their exact words. And I'll show you on the whiteboard in just a second a way to get really good at this. Yeah, a lot of you typed in also, it lets you know that you're listening. Using this method, I cannot tell you how many clients would say things like, I don't know what it is. You're the only one I want to talk to. Or I had 10 other agents call me today. It's almost like they're bewildered. For some reason, you're the only one I want to talk to. Well, what we know is it's because we're using their verbiage in the next question. And that's what's creating that environment. So let me give you a couple more. So the first one was tell me more about, and then whatever their word was. You could also say, describe for me how blank will impact you. So describe for me how downsizing will impact you. Describe for me how moving closer to your family will impact you. Whatever they told you, just put that into the blank, okay? As I'm doing this, type in some of your favorite digging questions, and I'll read those out. Another good one would be, what about blank is important to you? So what about downsizing is important to you? What about being closer to family is important to you? I'm trying to think of, I have some written on my board actually, and that's why I'm giving this to you, is I'd love to see you write it down and put it where you can see it. Okay, yeah, here's another good one. What about blank matters to you right now? So what about downsizing matters to you right now? What about being closer to family matters to you right now? Another good one is, how will blank impact your family? So how will downsizing impact your family? How will being closer to family impact your family? So what I find with this is it's actually so simple it can be challenging. So let me tell you what I mean by that. We live in a culture that is so focused on closed questions, which are those yes or no one-word answer questions, that it's literally like you're starting to weight lift and your muscles are tired, right? Because you haven't built the habit yet. Some of you have, for some of you, this is new. So what I find is we can overthink this because we're not yet used to it, and it can feel hard. So what I want you to do is get these questions written down so you can have them in your workspace. And literally when you're stuck, just read off the sheet some of these key questions that we've shared. My favorite one when I'm stuck, so I'll give you a little hack. If my mind wandered off for a second, or maybe I'm literally thinking, I have no idea what to ask right now, you could simply say, tell me more about blank, or tell me more about that. And they usually will say either, actually, I think that's everything, or they'll just go on talking. Most of the time they go on talking and you get this whole wealth of information. Okay, let me read the box here real quick. I really wish there was a way one of you could come on screen and role play with me. So we're gonna do a role play, so to speak. It'll be somewhat one-sided, and I'm gonna demonstrate how do you do this at a high level through a note-taking method. So I'll share with you, I've taught this since 2006. I've seen a lot of people have tremendous success with it. And in every class that I've taught, I've asked the class, is there any way you can think of to do this well in a different way than the note-taking method I'm about to show you? And the class typically replies, we can't think of a way to do this well without taking notes the way that I'm about to show you. So I'm going to just show you the way that I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take notes when you're talking with clients that will increase your success. Part of this is it is hard to remember their exact wording even 30 seconds later. A lot of information will be coming at you. And so you want to take notes in a way that enables you to remember what they just said. So because I cannot pull any of you on screen with me.
Hey, Anna. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
We have somebody that's willing to come on the screen live with you.
I didn't even know that was possible. Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Yes. So I'm going to, Kelly, if you can type your email into the chat, I'll bring you in live with Anna. And it'll probably be like 3 minutes.
Okay. So. That's awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate it. Okay. So what we'll do while we're waiting for Kelly is on the whiteboard, and again, let me know if you're having challenge seeing this and I'll move it closer. I'm going to demonstrate to you that the concept of note-taking. So for example, I might say, so Tyler, tell me, what is it that's motivating you to move? That's a lot of hard work. That's my open beginning question. And he might say, I want to downsize. Okay. So what you're going to do in your notes is you're going to write their exact word at the top. Okay. Then every time that you ask a digging question, you are going to do a downward arrow. And this will make sense the more I do it, especially once I role play with Kelly. The reason for the downward arrow is I would listen to some of my recorded calls. And as I listened, I quickly realized while I was on the call, I thought I asked 5, 6 questions. And when I listened to the call, it was 1 or 2. And so I was like, okay, I've got to find a way to track live how many questions I'm asking, because I am in an illusion here. I'm not asking nearly as many questions as I think I am. So that's where the arrow came in. So every time you ask a digging question, like tell me more about downsizing, or what about downsizing is important to you, do a downward arrow. And the key is do not stop until you have at least 3. Okay, so 3 downward arrows would signify 3 digging questions. And that's usually a sign that you've gone deep enough. You can always do more, but we don't want to ask less than 3. There's something psychological about 3 digging questions where they really start to open up to you. So you can do more, just don't do less. So I might say, okay, tell me, Tyler, what's important to you about downsizing? And he might say, I want to save money. Okay, that's still not telling me a whole lot, right? So I want to save money. So then I might say, okay, describe for me what saving money will do for you. So again, I'm using his exact words, and I'm now on my second question. So describe for me what saving money will do for you. And he might say, well, I really want to travel and have less stress. Okay. And then I might say, all right, so describe for me how will having less stress and the ability to travel impact you and or your family? And he might say, well, the kids are older. I've got family out west. I want to make good memories. And you're just going to write all that down. You don't have to write down every word they say, yet you want to get the gist, okay? Now you can keep going, yet I can see I have 3 arrows. That signifies to me that I've asked at least 3 digging questions. So I could keep going. I could say, you know, tell me what kind of memories you want to make with your family. You know, talk to me about the family that lives out west and what you'd like to do with them. I mean, I could keep going. But because I have at least 3, I can also stop if I want to. So now I'm going to summarize what's here using their words, which builds a lot of rapport, that idea of, wow, she's really listening to me, which I am. And it sets us apart from everyone else that's calling them. So I might say, okay, Tyler, what I'm hearing you say is you want to downsize so that you can save money, travel, have less stress. And really what all that's about is your kids are older, you want to visit your family out west, and you want to make some really fantastic memories as a family. Is that right? And what's funny, guys, is you can sometimes hear the bewilderment in their voice, like, yeah. And it's funny. And now you're in rapport. I just want you to think about it. How many other agents do you think are going to this level with clients? Right? It's probably not too many. Someone asked the question in the chat box, what do you do if they're resisting or acting kind of like, why are you asking me all these questions? Because they'll do that sometimes. My favorite response to that is to say, you know, the truth is, technically, I don't have to know, but I look at it kind of like the doctor. The doctor can prescribe a solution for you, but if they don't understand your scenario, it may or may not be the right solution. So the more that I can understand why this matters to you, what the goal is, the better I can target what we're going to do to help you. When saying that, I find a lot of times they open up pretty easily, and it's no big deal. So sometimes they just need context as to why you're asking these questions, and an answer like that usually helps get into rapport. So quick story for you, and then we'll have Kelly role play. And I'm sharing this to help you if you're struggling. It's common for people to say, you know, I am nervous, kind of like what was just typed in. And there was a guy that called into my office when this was a couple years ago. And I did this method. I started off with, what's your motivation? You know, it's a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. Did the whole digging thing. And he ended up saying to me, he was an investor and he lived in California. His goal was to buy over 200 houses in South Carolina because it was way cheaper than California. And he was an investor. And he was looking for houses to buy in Greenville, South Carolina. And I happened to pick up the phone. And after I did this method, he said to me, he's like, I talked to a ton of agents because I want to buy 200 houses. He said, I am not sure what it is, but you are actually the only agent I'm willing to meet with. The rest of them I don't want to meet with, but there's just something about this conversation that has made me want to meet with you. And he set an appointment with us. That guy is still buying houses, and that was years ago. And again, his goal was to buy 200 houses. So what that taught me was get outside the comfort zone, ask the questions, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. And not only are you going to help yourself through being able to have better relationships with clients, you're also going to help the client you're talking to get with a good agent because you're going to take good care of them. Okay, so Hannah, I'm ready if you've got Kelly there, and we can go ahead and do our role play.
Give me 1 second. I sent them both of those two people, so maybe Kelly or Maureen that jump in with us.
Okay.
So I sent them both over the link, so hopefully.
I love that we had 2 volunteers. This is awesome. I didn't even know that we could pull people on screen, so I'm super happy right now.
Oh, here's Kelly. She's coming in, so hopefully her mic works. She just needs to unmute herself.
That is a very nice picture, Kelly. Hopefully we can see you in just a second and hear you.
So Kelly, if you are on your phone or your screen, if you click on it, you should see a microphone with a slash through it, and it's probably red right now. If you can undo that, go ahead. If it does not work, Maureen is going to jump on. And Maureen, if you want to jump on either way, so if it doesn't work, we have you there with us. So
Kelly, if it helps you, the mic button is at the top of my screen. I don't know if it's in the same spot for you. Let me see if I can unmute.
It won't let her click on it, so you may not have a microphone.
Okay.
Let's see. So let me.
So while we're waiting, who has questions or a takeaway? I'd love to field any questions. We're coming down to the last 10 minutes or so. So who has questions around this question asking technique or a takeaway? And hopefully we'll get either Kelly or Maureen in just a second. By the way, while we're waiting, and Hannah, just interrupt me if you realize we're ready, and I'll quit talking and we'll role play. But one reason that we're doing this is through the question asking. This whole topic today is how to set appointments that are actually qualified and people are showing up. So one reason you're doing this in Digging the Motivation is when you have that personal relationship with the client, they will be more inclined to agree to meet with you. It'll also help them be more qualified because you're going to be able to tell, is this person motivated or is it just a casual interest? So when they can answer the motivation questions with you, it's going to enable you to screen your clients and decide, is this someone to meet with or not?
Just so you know, Maureen is here with us.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Maureen, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Oh, she just disappeared.
Jumped off, but hopefully she'll come back.
Okay, she'll probably come back. Okay, cool. So one more tip while we're waiting for her is once you've dug out the motivation. So in this fake role play I just did, I found out that Tyler wants to move, downsize so he can travel, see family, and have less stress. When you go to set the appointment, you're going to say something like, Tyler, let's go ahead and pick our time. You'll pick your time. Then you're going to say something like, really the reason we're meeting is to help you downsize.
Maureen is back in here with us. So
okay. Yay! Thank you, Maureen. I'll come to you in just a second when I finish my thought here. So you'll say something like, the real reason we're meeting is to help you downsize so you have less stress, you can travel and make memories with your family. So yeah, we're going to talk about the details. We'll talk about how to stage your house or how to set up your house search. But really the reason we're meeting is so you can downsize and have more time with your family and make some good memories. So that will help your appointment stick, is to finish it off with a reminder of, hey, this is really the goal. Because how many of us know people that say, I love to move, right? That's not common. But a lot of people love what they get for moving. So you just want to remind them at the very end, here's what you get by meeting with me. We're going to get the motivation you described. So you're going to bring it back up at the end of the call. Okay, Maureen, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So let's help you get some referrals since you volunteered. So tell everyone where you are and what your role is, and then we'll do our role play.
Okay, so I'm with the Terra Stark Real Estate Group, and we're in Weatherford, Texas. And
Awesome.
I am a slash ISA-ish. we're creating that new role, so.
Got it. I love ISA issues. That's great. So let's do
Yes.
it. Okay. So we're going to pretend that we've already said our hellos. We're on the call. And honestly, it doesn't matter if you're buyer or seller, because if you have a good open-ended question, it would work for either one. So I'm going to just start with an open-ended question and go ahead and you're going to be someone that is motivated. A pro tip is when you're role-playing something for the first time. This is for those of you that will practice back home. Always start with the ideal scenario. If you're teaching your kid how to ride a bike, you start them on training wheels. You don't send them mountain biking. So you want to practice a pretty ideal scenario when you're learning something new.
Okay.
So moving is a lot of hard work. What put that on your radar?
Well, yeah, I know it's hard work, but I want to be closer to my parents since they're getting older.
Okay. And what is important to you about being closer to your parents as they're getting older?
Well, right now, I mean, they just don't have anybody to help them, so it's just them.
Okay. Perfect. And so describe for me the value you see in being able to help your parents as they're getting older.
Oh, I mean, I would know that they're okay. I wouldn't have to wait for phone calls or text messages. You know, I'd be close enough that I can know that they're okay and help them out.
Okay, awesome. And I think I know the answer to this question. It's kind of an obvious question, but how would that impact you to know that your parents are okay and you're not waiting for a text or a phone call? It's easier for you.
Oh, it would mean everything. It'd make life a lot easier.
Got it. Yeah. So describe for me what's going on now that you see being different when your life's easier because you live closer to your family.
Well, I mean, it would make it worth moving, going through the whole hassle and everything. So.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, Maureen, is you want to be closer to your parents. And a big part of that is you want to help them. It's just them, and you want to be able to help them more than you are now. And you want to be able to know that they're okay without having to wait for a text or a phone call, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. Is that correct?
Oh, that's completely correct.
Perfect. And then I'm going to say, is there anything else that's motivating you to move?
Probably I have some good equity in this house now. I mean, the value's gone up really, really well. So I want to try to take advantage of that and get into something that I really, really want.
Perfect. So I'm going to pause role play for a minute, and then we're going to jump right back in. What just happened is very normal, because when you get someone on the phone and they don't know you and you say, moving's a lot of work, what makes you want to do it? Many times they'll give you one surfacey answer because they don't know you. You're a stranger to them. But as you dig, you use their words, you recap it, you are building an enormous amount of rapport. So after you recap it and say, is there anything else? Many times another one or two motivations will pop out because now they know you a little better and they trust you through that method. So I'm going to go ahead and dig this one. For the same time, when I get to the end and say, is there anything else? Just go ahead and say no, just so we can wrap up the webinar. Okay. So Maureen, you also mentioned that you believe you have equity. Tell me a little bit more about the equity in your home and why that makes you want to move.
Well, I mean, basically over the last 10, 12 years, it's doubled in price. So
okay,
I have a good amount of equity.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Yes.
So some people would say, my home doubled in price. Let me stay even longer and see what else it does. What about your home doubling in price actually makes you want to move?
Well, I mean, it will give me disposable cash to take care of my parents, but then also I've wanted to travel for a long time. So I'm going to use some of that money to go travel and have some fun too.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love that. I want to do that too. Okay, so when you're traveling, where do you imagine yourself traveling to, and what's important about that to you?
Probably Spain. I would love to take my daughter to Spain.
Okay. Awesome. So your daughter's in Spain. What would that mean to you if you had the cash that you could easily just go travel and see your daughter in Spain and then also take care of your parents?
Oh, it would mean the world. It'd be, I'd be able to, help her and then help my parents as well. So it would really feel good.
So I'm hearing you say a lot of things about helping. It sounds like helping is important to you. And so for you, Maureen, a big part of selling your house is so that you can help your parents not worry waiting for a phone call or a text. You can help them more easily. But also you want to be able to help your daughter and go visit and travel and see her in Spain really when you want to. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Is there anything else motivating you to move?
No, can't think of anything else.
Perfect. Now, if she had said yes, I would have just started back over, start another column and do the same thing. So in this case, I would say, okay, great. Well, let's see what we need to do to make that happen for you to be able to help your parents and travel to Spain whenever you want. By the way, the question of what do you do if people are kind of like, why are you asking me all these questions?
Yes. And I get that on expireds and cancels, because those are the ones that I'm focusing on.
Yeah. So what you do is motivation is the first thing we talk about. So when you've recapped it and they're like, yeah, I mean, that's why I want to move. Your statement is great. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen.
Okay.
I have some questions for you so I can logistically figure out what the next step would be. That helps provide context for why I'm now about to ask them the 20 questions I mentioned to Katie earlier. So I might say, all right, Maureen, so I really want to help you, help your parents be able to go visit your daughter in Spain. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. So I have some questions for you about your house. You ready to play 20 questions with me about some logistics, and then we'll figure out what we need to do?
Yeah, I like that. And I also liked how you said, go back to asking them what prompted you 6 months ago to want to move. I was missing that. So that's a good one.
Yeah. What I find with expireds, and I'm just going to address it because it's come up a lot today in the chat box. I used to call expireds a ton. They were like, I used to hate calling them, and then they became my favorite because I learned some tricks. So I'll share with you. I want you to imagine, here's an analogy. I'll tie it back, I promise. But imagine we're at Thanksgiving dinner and our 16-year-old niece is there. And she's telling us that she just broke up with her boyfriend of a year. And she's like, man, I can't stand that dude. I'm so frustrated with him. And I didn't like his mom anyway, so it's fine. A lot of times what's happening is if you're disappointed in something, you say things like, well, I didn't like his mom anyway. It's for the best. Or in the expired world, oh, I don't think the market supports it. So, I mean, I'm just going to wait. And really, it's disappointment being masked by, well, here's why it's better that it didn't work out. So if in that moment, when your niece is saying all the reasons why she doesn't like her ex-boyfriend, if in that exact moment you say, hey, when do you want to get back together with him? She's gonna probably say, I mean, are you listening to me? I don't like the dude. So what you're going to do is say, all right, a year ago, when you started dating this guy, what made you want to date him? I mean, there had to be something that caused you to want to date him a year ago. And as she starts describing, well, he carried my books to class and he makes me laugh. He's so funny. Well, now that she has regurgitated why she dated him a year ago, now it's going to be much easier to say, so, I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, do you want to try to get back together with him? What do you want to do? Now, emotionally, there's going to be a much higher engagement. So that's why with expireds, for the mindset perspective, if you're hearing things like, oh yeah, we're just going to leave it off the market, or oh, I don't think the market supports it. That's very similar to the whole, yeah, I didn't like his mom anyway. It's disappointment being hidden by these excuses. So emotionally, get them back to the day they listed.
Yep.
The goal is to help this person, right? Here's someone that had a goal and it wasn't accomplished. I want to help them. But first, I got to get them emotionally re-engaged. So that's why you say, hey, 6 months ago, what made you want to do it?
Right.
And then you can take the approach of, gosh, I mean, if I could still help that happen for you, would you want to do it? And a lot of times at that point, they'll be more willing to. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for role playing. That was awesome. I appreciate it. And Kelly, I know it didn't work out, but thanks for your willingness. So, okay, good. We had a question in here and we'll end with this. Do people get tired of you asking the questions? And what I find is they usually don't. You might have the random person that does, but you get way further with way more people by asking the questions. Most people are starved for feeling like someone cares about them. We live in a world where people ask closed questions. We're moving so quickly. We've got social media that the art of a good conversation is becoming lost, right? And so I find from doing this, most people love it. A lot of you are with Keller Williams. I recognize your names. And we know that we have our hiring process, career visioning. How many times have you hired someone, or maybe when you were hired, at the end of that whole process, we hear people say, you know me better than many people in my family do. And all that was from asking some good open-ended questions in the hiring process. Mm-hmm. And it makes me sad that we are, as a culture, that unaccustomed to asking good questions of the people in our world. So I find a lot of people respond very well to it. Will everyone? Probably not. In fact, just expect you'll have the occasional person that doesn't want to go there with you. And that's where you can say, hey, the reason I'm asking these questions is I can provide a better solution if I know what your scenario is. That's why I'm asking. Many times that will get over that hump. But just know you will get way further with more people by asking the questions than you would holding back because you might offend 1 or 2 people. Most people will actually really love it and feel very valued. Okay, awesome. So I want to leave you again with the resources. So Hannah, if you could put back up on screen the website, isamapscoaching.com. That's where you can go. 1, you can hit talk to a coach. You'll come to me, Katie, Annalisa, one of us that is actually a coach. If you're ready to enroll in the program, this kind of stuff that we did today is what we do all the time. About 2 hours ago, I was leading a webinar on how to set appointments that actually show up. And we do it every single week. You also get 2 coaching calls. So if this is something you're like, okay, I want more of this, the ISA MAPS coaching program can be the right fit for you. Go ahead and go to the website. And then lastly, that's where all the webinars are housed. So if you want to watch this again or show it to your team, isamapscoaching.com, and then webinars tab is the place to go. And we have all these old webinars in there that you can go back and listen and watch this one again. So, all right, guys, you have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me. And we'll see you on the next webinar. Have a great day.